I was juggling a suitcase and a coffee and a set of keys that never cooperate when I heard it. Daddy. Not a scream, not even a cry. Just a tiny voice cutting through that hard December air. And when I turned toward the stone lions at our front gate, I saw Avery, my 7-year-old knees pulled up, breath turning into little clouds, cheeks, blotchy lips, edged blue. And behind the other pillar was my mother Ruth, trying to block the wind with a cardigan that had no business being outside in Massachusetts. My suitcase hit the gravel, my heart hit the floor, and I wrapped my coat around Avery, while my hands fumbled the lock like they'd forgotten me. How long, I asked, and Avery said, since lunch. We were told to think about our choices, and I swear something old and mean woke up in me, the part of me that remembers being a foster kid before Ruth fought the whole state for me. We stepped into the foyer, and it was warm and golden, and magazine perfect, and right in the middle of it stood my wife Celeste, in silk and perfume like a winter gala ad. "You're home early," she said, smile, bright eyes, even brighter. And when I asked why my mother and daughter were locked outside, she said one word, discipline, like she was reciting policy. They needed to understand their place. Their place. I looked at Avery's hands shaking under my coat and felt that old switch flip. Their place is with me. Where I am, that's their place. Celeste never dropped the smile, she just shifted tone. We will not create a scene. I manage this home, you manage revenue. The two do not mix. You know that feeling when a bunch of snapshots rearrange themselves into a picture you should have seen a year ago. The quiet dinners, Ruth choosing her room over the living room. How the house held its breath the second my key touched the lock. Grief had made me grateful, and gratitude had made me blind. I sent Ruth and Avery upstairs. Blankets, hot chocolate, cartoons, all the little bandages people put on a bleeding house. Then I looked at the woman I'd married and told her to leave. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She tilted her head and started listing phrases that blow up families the neat way. Community property, power of attorney, mental stability clauses, a flu last winter when I signed papers with a 103 fever. Joint signature authority I barely remembered. If you push me out, she said, calm as a weather report. I will take half of everything you've built, and your partners will question your judgment by morning. Yeah, that happened. I'm not proud of backing up in that moment, but I'm proud of what came after. I told her we'd talk later, let her board have their perfect evening, and I did what men who are underestimated learn to do. I called the one person who has known me so long, he can tell my voice is lying before I know it is. Ethan Price, the kind of friend who doesn't ask for a speech, he asks for full names. By noon, he had them. Celeste Beaumont, Dr. Lila Benton, family therapist, Dr. Soren Vale, psychiatrist, with very convenient letters for emergency holds, and by dusk, he had more. A first husband in Manhattan, Julian Rourke, dead from a fall that felt a little too scripted, a will adjusted 3 days prior with Dr. Benton's signature in the margins, an old money family that lost its money and learned to replace it with charity galas and last names. I started paying attention the way you do when the house you love is suddenly a stage, a baby monitor and a flower arrangement on the kitchen shelf, a second phone and a hollowed-out book in my office, a camera in the Pilates studio where Celeste centered with friends, and what it caught was a language class for predators. Celeste's voice bored like she was ordering tile, talking about accelerating the timeline, Dr. Benton mentioning documenting erratic behavior, Dr. Vale asking any violent incidents we can cite, and Celeste saying softly, not yet. That can be arranged. Here's what I learned. Some people play the long game so quietly, you mistake it for kindness. They teach you the words they'll use against you. Structure, consistency, protecting the child. And they place that vocabulary in your pediatrician's chart, your partner's ear, your own mouth when you're too tired to argue. I found the secret drawer behind a row of fashion books in Celeste's dressing room, false back with a finger lip. And behind it, a life. 2 versions of Julian's will signatures, too perfect. A ledger of therapeutic protocols and dosages, copies of evaluations that turned wealthy men into diagnoses, and a journal in Celeste's neat handwriting that read like a lab manual. Year 1, dependency. Year 2, isolation. Year 3, deterioration. Terminal resolution. 6 to 8 months after final phase. And then the lines about Avery. Child overattached to father and grandmother. Boarding school recommended. Permanent solutions if unmanageable. I've been punched in the mouth. I've fallen off scaffolding. I've lost a wife to an illness that doesn't care how kind you are. Nothing made my hands shake like those lines. People ask why I didn't call the cops that night. I did eventually, but when the therapist, the psychiatrist, and a wellness retreat director are part of the machine, you learn to collect evidence that doesn't blink. I upgraded my phone to satellite like a seatbelt, tucked a GPS coin in my belt, dropped a recorder the size of a shirt button in my pocket, and told Celeste I was ready to do the work. That Dr. Benton was right. That maybe a weekend away off the grid could help us reconnect. Hearthstone Lodge sits on a dark lake in the Adirondacks trees like walls windows that don't open a door that locks from the outside. Luxury cage. And when we checked in, the director's smile never reached his eyes. In our suite, Celeste let the socialite peel off her face, and what was underneath wasn't rage. It was relief. "Do you know how long I've been planning this?" she asked, and I said I thought she wanted me to beg. She laughed. "No. I want you to comply. You'll get agitated at dinner. Dr. Benton will be concerned. Dr. Vale will recommend sedation. Your heart won't like the combination. It happens. I'll be very brave about it. People adore bravery." "What about Avery?" I asked, and her smile showed teeth. "Children adapt. And if they don't, tragedies happen." That's when I held up my phone and typed a text where she could see it. "At Lodge with Celeste. Love you. Tell Aunt Jess thanks for the sleepover." And she rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic. "There's no service here, Noah. Give me the phone." And then the message chimed sent because satellite doesn't care about local towers. And for the first time that day, her face actually moved. The phone rang, and I put it on speaker so we both could hear. "Mr. Carter, this is Agent Maya Ortiz. We received your evidence packets and your location ping. Are you safe at this moment?" And Celeste said, "This is a violation of privacy. Hang up," and I said, "She has a gun," because I could see the shape in her bag, and I wanted someone else's ears on those words. "Understood," Agent Ortiz said, voice steady. "Units are 8 minutes out. Keep her talking. Dr. Benton and Dr. Vale are in custody. The lodge is being surrounded. 8 minutes is forever when a person like Celeste is doing math from trigger to narrative, so I did the one thing I could do that mattered to me. I asked for names, not the men, the children, and she gave them one by one because arrogance and proof of concept are cousins. A boy who fell a girl with a reaction, a house with a faulty wire. And by the time the rotors shook the glass, and the door exploded, and the room turned into instructions, she pivoted toward me to finish the story with one clean sentence. A sniper ended it first. Was I relieved? I was empty. Relief needs energy. What I had was an ache where a future used to live, not with her, never with her, with the version of me who believed you could hand over the domestic sphere and still be a father. 6 months later, I stood in a glass conference room and listened to numbers that didn't feel real. Arrests in 12 states. Dozens of deaths tied to the network. Millions moved through wellness and charity and therapy. And I set up a restitution fund, Not because I'm noble, because I couldn't touch money that smelled like those names. And then I went home and cooked pancakes on a Tuesday, and Avery laughed in pieces until it was whole again. Ruth stopped walking on eggshells in her own kitchen and told me when I was wrong, and I loved her more for it. I met Paige, a nurse who knows more about pain and patience than I could learn. In a decade, we built a slow friendship people think is boring, and I think is durable. We got married in the backyard, under cheap lights that look expensive after dark. Avery threw petals like confetti, Ruth cried the way grandmothers cry, when the world gives back what it stole. Agent Ortiz stood in the back and slipped out before dessert because she hates attention. I pretended not to notice she hugged Avery in the driveway. Folks ask for the lesson like trauma should end with a thesis. I don't have tidy, I have this. Love is not weakness, it's leverage against the worst parts of the world. Predators count on you being polite, grateful, too embarrassed to make a scene. They weaponize your decency. Make the scene. If your gut says the rules are masking cruelty, flip the table record, the conversation, upgrade the phone. Tell the friend who knew you before you learned to lie to yourself, and believe the kid at the gate before the woman in the foyer. And because I promised I'd be honest, here's the part that will probably start a fight in the comments. Did I cross a line baiting that confession, laying a trap at that lodge, turning the phone into a lifeline? Is that paranoia or protection? If Celeste hadn't aimed and the sniper hadn't fired, would I have stood up in court for a woman I once promised to love? Or am I just dressing up vengeance and calling it justice? You tell me. Drop a comment. Tell me where you draw the line between discipline and abuse, privacy and protection, reputation and reality. If you've seen someone hide malice behind charm, if you ever said the quiet part out loud and nobody believed you. I read everything. Because stories like this don't change the world in a courtroom alone. They change when regular people stop clapping for the performance. If this hit home, subscribe, share it with the one friend who needs to hear, make the scene. And tonight, before you lock your own front gate, take one extra look. Make sure the only ones outside are the ones who chose to be there.